Hey, good morning, Juan. This is a demo video for you for your custom Valkryie staff by Vaults of Valhalla. Carl, actually, this was his saber run. He partnered up with Shadowfoil for the saber run, and I believe, Shadowfoil for the saber run. And then also he did the custom etch work and painting on it as well. All right. This is installed with Proffie. This has the chassis that was designed for this run. We're going to go over it in detail because there are a lot of things that you need to watch out for and a few things that I had to do in order to make it work properly. All right. First thing you want to do to get to this chassis is you want to go ahead and unscrew both of your switches. All right. It's just something that's safe to do. Over time, you probably won't have to unscrew this one next to the speaker, but I'm just going to try to get you into the habit now, so that you can kind of keep an eye on that tactile switch that's in that hole right there. All right, and that's important. So you got that one right there, and you've got that one right there. So we'll come over here, take our handle. We're going to unscrew from this vented place and the handle. That's where we want to take the saber apart. All right. So we'll go ahead and do that now. First, I'm going to take this piece off, actually, because we do need to talk about that. But we'll go ahead and take this other end off. Pop it off to the side. Take our handle, slide it off, and this is the provided chassis. So this takes a 21700 battery. I went through here. I had the original contacts that was supposed to go with this chassis. I just had some extras laying around. I didn't like how the positive terminal made the battery still just a hair loose. So I replaced the positive terminal with a secondary leaf spring. So you have two leaf springs in here. That can be kind of confusing. So I went in here with a silver Sharpie. I wrote a minus sign and a plus sign for your battery orientation. That's how that goes in there. All right. This had a place for a crystal, of course. So I put a quartz crystal in there. It has its own Neopixel accent, so it's independently wired. You have a Proffie board right here. So easy access to your SD card and your micro USB because this is facing diagonally up a little bit. And then you have two sets of Carl Chen PCBs. So you've got one in here and one in here. It's my suggestion that you don't take the chassis out further than this. If you wanted to at this point, you could grab it, carefully wiggle it out and pop it out of this side too. I would leave it like this, okay? So we'll take your battery. I am going to send this with the saber. Put it in here. Go ahead and be careful with this. It's a long chassis. It's kind of thin, so you're going to want to support it when you're snapping the battery in there. So as you can see, I've got your crystal pulsing when the saber's off. However, it will go to off mode if you don't turn the saber on right away, so it doesn't kill your battery. Okay. Now again, we're going to want to take our handle and put it on. Very important. If you look at this handle, one side has a bevel on it and the other is straight. The straight side is what goes here. Okay. We'll just take this and slide it over here. Twist it all the way on. I had to do quite a bit of sanding in order to get this to fit, but it all fits now. There is one thing about this chassis that you're going to want to look out for. I don't have any neoprene O-rings. I would suggest getting one though and putting it right here on this thread for the secondary emitter, because when you put this on, we'll go ahead and we'll screw it on. If you screw it on all the way tight, it takes that chassis and it twists it a little bit. So if you look in there, and you'll notice, it may be a little hard to see, that tactile switch is not lined up with that hole, while this one over here is, and that is because of the fitment of the chassis into this area. It's very, very tight. I did sand a lot. It is a little difficult to sand nylon. So what I've been doing is once I get this tight, I'll take it and I'll back it off one full revolution. Okay. Actually, an update since the middle of making this demo is this piece right here. If I take this handle off, thread locked on me, and I had that same situation happen this morning with the other side. the speaker part and this part thread locked on me, I was able to get that off, cleaned up the threads with a file, put some lithium grease on there, and it's good to go. In the middle of making this demo and putting the handle on, this piece thread locked on me, and it's something that hadn't happened to me before, and I had tested this probably 5 or 6 times before sitting down. But I think the tightness of the chassis, coupled with me trying to screw this together, it thread locked. So what I did is I went through just now when I cut the video, I put this piece on my lathe. I did lathe off about half of the threads that were damaged, cleaned up the rest with a file, and put this on. So you will still need an O-ring, but you're going to want to put it on the side with the speaker pod, okay? So when you're putting this in, the same thing applies as what I was saying before. It's just happening on the other side now. If you were to take this and screw this all the way on, what it does is the chassis is so tight, it will twist a little bit. So you'll have one tactile switch. It's a red one, so you could see it right there. That one's lined up right there with the hole. But when you look over at this one's not quite lined up. You can see that there. So what I do is I back that off one complete revolution until they're both lined up. So this one's now lined up and this one's lined up, and that's where you're going to want to put that gasket. So you're going to want a black neoprene gasket. If you need a link to that from Amazon, let me know. I'm happy to show that to you. And it goes right there. That way, when it's all locked in place and everything's aligned, it stays that way, okay? Finally, you can come over here and you can put your switches back in. You can just screw them in, all right? And come over here and screw it in on this side too. This was not my typical install. This ended up being a lot of things that I wasn't planning on, but sometimes when installing sabers, that's what happens. As far as the physical appearance and the outside etch and the paint job and everything like that, nothing is affected. There is just that one revolution that you'll want to back off so that this side over here lines up with the tactile switch. All right, so now you can turn it on. One Proffie board controls both sides. So as you can see, you got shine through here and you got shine through here. Always the side next to your speaker venting is your power, right? And your side over here, of course, is your auxiliary. And then you've got twist off. So what I'm going to do is just put one blade in at a time on each side and show you that they both work. We're going to want to back out both of these screws. So you got a screw here and a screw here in your shroud. They both act as blade retention screws. So we'll back those out. The saber does take 1-inch diameter blades. Actually, I have 2 1-inch diameter Neopixel blades so that we can do that to both sides. I'll put a blade in both sides for you. They're of different lengths. I've got one that's a full-length blade, and I've got one that, this little shorty test blade here. So we'll put this in, lock it down. This one may seem like it's a little brighter because this is a tri-star blade. This one over here is my 1-inch demo blade from Bendu Armory. It's still a very good blade. It's just not a tri-star blade. All right, so we'll take this screw, we'll back it out a little bit so that we can slide our blade down in here. And then again, remembering that power is over here by your speaker, we light up both sides. That's why I don't typically use the longer blade sitting over here. You can't see it, but my ceiling is slanted. I'm right above the garage. It's very easy to hit the ceiling with this guy. But you got good flash on flash. Blaster bolts is just tapping, right? Blade lockup is holding the button down and hitting the saber. And you'll see that on both blades. here on this blade. You'll see it travel up and down on this one. And you could twist off. But if you don't want to twist off, you could just tap the button and it turns them both off just like that. All right, so we'll go ahead and take the blades out of here. We'll go over taking the battery out also. It's very easy to do. It's just something that I like going over. I didn't use the blade retention over here because the blade was so tight. If you have a brand new blade, you will likely have to do some sanding on it. All right, so we'll loosen up the two top ones for this guy. Slide the blade out, and then I'll tighten these back up. Oops. And then when we unscrew it, we're going to want to unscrew it from here. So always buy the speaker pod. All right. First thing you want to do, never forget, unscrew your switches. If you forget to unscrew your switches, you can damage the tactile switches. So you want to unscrew these switches every time. All right, so we'll come over here, unscrew it from the speaker, slide this off, and then lastly, to take the battery out, you can come over here from the middle part and just kind of pull the battery out just like that. And that's basically your Valkryie. This video may not be very short, but in between the cutoff and me coming back on, I've probably been sitting down and doing this demo for about 2 hours. So yeah, that's your Valkryie. Not super important, like I said, to take this switch off over here by your speaker. You can go ahead and leave that in. Like at the beginning of the video, I know I said to take them both out, but you can leave that one in if you want. Super important though to take this one out before you unscrew it. Because of the way that the chassis is, it has a groove inside of it that the tactile switch sits in, and this switch goes right into that groove and it locks in place. All right, so if you try to twist this off and this is still, that switch is still on, you'll twist the chassis and stuff like that. So please remember that. Let me know if I didn't quite make sense, because I know I had a lot of cutoffs in between this video. Happy to do a video conference call with you if you like, to make sure that everything makes sense to you. All right, thanks.